All right, welcome to Unity on Cape Cod. We are everyday people. We're all the colors of the rainbow. We're the kaleidoscope of God's expanding awareness. Yes. Amen. Now, Unity on Cape Cod, as you heard, is part of Unity Worldwide Ministries, which has a vision of a world powerfully transformed by the growing movement of our shared spiritual awakening. So I went to the website, unity.org/Black History, and I found this wonderful video of contemporaries of mine, ministers of color, because I promised to make February all about teachers of color, ministers of color, and musicians, songwriters of color. Sly and the Family Stone is part of my history. Right? And the first two songs was Eddie Watkins Jr., which he is now he's a famous bass player, by the way. He played on the Grammys, he played with the Temptations, he played with so many different people, and now is the music minister down in Orlando, Christ Unity in Orlando. I forget, they might have changed the name, but he's there in Orlando. The second song we sang today was Ziggy Marley, Jamaican. American. Well, he's probably, I don't know where he lives. I'm not going to pretend to know everything. But we put together 3.5 minutes of this video that was originally 14 minutes about Black history, and I would love to share it with you now. Can you turn these lights down?
Until the history books are written from an inclusive framework, Black History Month is vital. I remember when I was a little kid, the history that I learned was from the dominant narrative worldview. And the dominant narrative worldview simply means that those who were a success, who were the inventors, the scientists, the explorers, the warriors, they were people who were white. Sure, there was a small snippet of successful people of color, such as George Washington Carver, Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., but they were the exceptions rather than the norm.
If you take the time to sincerely hear and know another person's story, particularly if it's someone you feel separate from or have been taught to tolerate, something powerful can happen. You can move beyond toleration to appreciation and even perhaps having a love for those folks. Nearly everyone has known hardship and setbacks in life, just as we've all experienced joy in this journey of life. And when you know their story, the sense of separation begins to fall away. African Americans have a myriad of stories to tell about their lives and their history. And their stories are interconnected with the greatest story of all humanity. And that is, we are all one. This is why Black History Month is important. Because the stories that describe the lives and the history of African Americans can help remind us that despite the appearance of separate bodies, individual personalities, and different pursuits, we are one humanity, each with a unique contribution to make to the human race. When all the stories of the different expressions of humanity are told, we'll not just see color. Rather, we'll see different shades and expressions of the infinite presence of the universe, or what we call God revealing itself. We'll not just see separate cultures. We'll see the many variations of how infinite spirit needs all of the cultures and races to reveal its infinite nature.
Given our world community, it is important to acknowledge and share are rich histories, cultures, and lived experiences as Black people worldwide, with everyone. This honors our uniqueness as God's kaleidoscope of collective awareness.
Isn't that wonderful? God's kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope. Is this on? God's kaleidoscope of collective awareness. I love it. I love it. So that makes our collective awareness God. It's important to look at God as something different than this being that's separate from you somewhere out in the universe. And you pray to this being, and sometimes they'll send a blessing to you, and sometimes not. It's very capricious, that God. My God is a God of our collective awareness, and the kaleidoscope of our collective awareness coalescing as one divine energy. Yes, it includes all of the universe, and that's why it seems to be outside of you. But it's not. It's just like the drop of water in the ocean. It's just like the wave on the top of the ocean. The moment of enlightenment, according to Thich Nhat Hanh, is when the wave becomes aware that it is the ocean. It is not something separate. The drop of water is not something separate from the wave or the ocean. It's all one thing, it's all connected, and it's all interchangeable and interdependent and one at all times. Even though it seems to show up in different expressions. That's why I always say that you are a unique expression of God in this world, and we need you to show up in your uniqueness, your authentic, unique being that you are, is God expressing itself right here and right now. And we get so hung up sometimes on our images of what we think God is, what we think that person out there is, and pretty much everything. We try to bring it into a form that we can understand and worship separately from us. And of course, in the Christian tradition, we did this a lot with this guy named Yeshua, which originally translated name is Joshua. We made it Jesus somewhere along the line, so it would appeal to everybody, and it didn't seem so human. And then about the 4th century, the Byzantines had artists that made him into a king with white robes and a blue sash and long flowing blonde hair and light skin and blue eyes. Wow, what a handsome dude. I can worship that dude, right? That's what you're saying. But could you worship this dude? Because in the 1st century, Palestinians looked like this. Now this, starting with the assumption that Yeshua resembled a typical peasant of the 1st century in Palestine, this medical artist named Richard Neve, he took a skull from Israel, from that period of time, and constructed, right through computer programs and clay and simulated skin, this image. This is about as accurate as you can get to the men who lived at that time, the way they wore their hair, the color of their skin. Now, Charlie said he didn't look so enlightened, this one. Remember, this is a representation made with clay. This is an actual model. So, no, he doesn't look too enlightened, but it looks pretty good for an artist's rendition. Now, another artist, tried to modernize him a little bit and said, well, he could have looked like this. Well, okay. He's a little more attractive. But the purpose of this exercise here is to begin to look at this one that you call Jesus as everyday people. Just like one of us. Just like... I love the sound effects. That was really good. I like that. It comes complete. This message comes complete with sound effects. I love it. Dark skin, dark olive-colored skin, short curly hair, prominent nose, like mine. More prominent than mine. And about 5'1" to 5'6" were the 5'6" guys were the tallest in that culture a couple thousand years ago. So it's just, it's interesting to see where we've taken that, where we've taken the model of an everyday person and made it into an idol that's impossible to match. It's impossible to identify with. And so you have to count on this being outside of you to bless you, to give you the healing, to bring you the light, to save you from your humanity. But what we're teaching here is that in our shared humanity, are we going to discover our shared divinity? We're going to discover the Christ within us. Now, although Yeshua, the one you call Jesus, was an enlightened being. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's hold that for a second. Although he was an enlightened being, he came to show us that Christ, or illumination of the mind, the discovery of God within you, is a principle that all of us can realize. Christ is not a personality, but a principle. That's what we teach here at Unity. Now, Martin Luther King, he was a Christian. He was a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So he had a very close walk in his spiritual life with the teachings of Jesus. The teachings of Yeshua, of Jesus, were that we are all one. And that we should love one another. And in 1 John chapter 4, it says, you can't love God and hate your brother. How can you love God, this thing that you can't see, and hate your brother, the one you can see right in front of you? How can you do both? So the one who says they love God but hates their brother, guess what? This is biblical, my friends. You're a liar, it says. You can't do both. And yet we've tried to do this. The Crusades, the scourge of slavery around the world, was all justified in some people's minds by their interpretation of the Bible. Wow. So please come to me and question me about my interpretation of the Bible that says God is love and only love, and that we ought to love one another. And if we don't love one another and we say we love God, that we're lying. Please come and question me about it, because I'd love to sit down with you and have a discussion about the real and core teachings of not only Jesus the Christ, but any spiritual master and the core of any religion that you can name, any spiritual path you can name. Comes down to one thing, that we are love and only love, and that's why we're here, to learn that, and that alone. And so, this Black History Month, we're going to turn to Martin Luther King, because quite literally, when I grew up, those are the three people that mentioned in that video. Those are the ones I learned about in history. Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. They didn't even teach me about George Washington Carver or Frederick Douglass. But luckily, I did get a little bit of Black history. I was there, actually. I was alive when Martin Luther King was in his heyday and when he was assassinated. And the Kennedys were assassinated. And I remember as a little boy thinking, what are we doing? Where do I find myself? Like right away, I was very young and I said, we need help. There's got to be some shift in this human way of treating one another. Little did I know that really was going to be the purpose of my life, to help bring about that shift in consciousness. So he said, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish as fools. And I truly believe that is still true. We're going to need to learn to live together as brothers, as sisters, as one. As one. The necessity to come together has never been greater. The scourge of racism and division and hatred, it hurts all of us equally. So today we're going to be learning about spiritual principles as we rise together in love. As we learn to use these principles to rise together in love, to see the Christ in one another, and to celebrate our oneness in the universal mind of God. I believe strongly, as we acknowledge our shared humanity, we will also discover and experience our shared divinity. Yeah, you have feelings just like I do. You have the same kind of questions and concerns and obstacles that we can turn into opportunities that I have. We live in the same relative vicinity, planet Earth. We have the same zip code in the universe. It's one community, one human family. And as we acknowledge that, we're going to discover that we are also one in the light, or what we call the Christ light, the mind of God in you, the heart of God in you. We're going to discover that God lives in you. I'm going to discover that as I allow myself to be one with you as a human being, our shared humanity. We truly are God's kaleidoscope of collective awareness. So I actually want to know you. I really do. I want to find, I need the various expressions of God in my life to show me more of what I am. Otherwise, I'm going to just be looking in the mirror at a separate being. And that separate being is not actually true because I'm connected to you. When I look in the mirror, I want to see all of you looking back at me. Sounds like a horror movie. But it's not. When I look at myself, I want to see the kaleidoscope of our collective awareness, of God's collective awareness. It is possible to see beyond the illusion of our separate bodies. This is what Reverend Trapp was saying. We can see beyond the illusion of separate bodies and separate individual personalities and come into that awareness of our inherent oneness. The illusion of separation. I'm always talking about this, but it's really practical to practice this. It's like Kathy's meditation. It was a practice in seeing your shared or experiencing your shared divinity with others, experiencing your oneness. And I invite everyone to do that on a daily basis. When we're talking about diversity, this is a good one. I love this woman here. Ava DuVernay is a filmmaker. She says when we're talking about diversity, it's not just a box to check off. It's not just a box to say, I got a couple of black friends. You know, I've got some Hispanic friends. We had them over for dinner last week. You know, sure, I got some Asian friends too. You know, yeah, right? That's just checking off a box. You see all these political leaders, they got these boxes checked off because they line up a few people of color behind them, and you think, okay, he's just like us, right? Well, he's diverse. No, it's not just a box you check off. It's a reality that should be deeply felt and held and valued by all of us. It's a reality that we are one. No matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, no matter what your religious background is, we are one, and that's a reality. And that's the reality I want to feel. By engaging with you in meaningful ways, having tough conversations about what you believe and why. And how can we move on from here? I love it because unity means just that. We come together in a unity of experience that's beyond our limited beliefs. I can have a belief about you, about me, about diversity, about anything. But the experience of our oneness goes beyond that. And that's what hopefully we're having here. That's what we're dedicated to, is having that experience of our oneness. Engaging with you in meaningful ways. So we don't see, what did Reverend Trapp say? We don't see color anymore, but we see our inherent divine nature expressed together in the world. We see the inherent divine nature of God expressed through you. I can't do that if I have some sort of judgment of who you are and why we're separate, why I'm better than you, why I'm less than you. We've created this idol called Jesus, and we're all less than that. So we've set up this thing, that I can be less than him, so it's okay to have people less than me. It's not okay. You guys, it's not. It's not okay to have anyone that deserves anything less than the kingdom of heaven, and you're here to share it with them. You're here to create heaven on earth. That's the Our Father. If you're going to pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, who's going to create that heaven on earth but you? And the rest of it is really cool. You just forgive everyone. Forgive those who you perceived as your enemies. Forgive your debtors as you have been forgiven your debts. Wow. That means you're not guilty. No one else is either. No one else is responsible for your feelings. Your experiences are all up to you. History has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. See, all you're required to do is to be courageous yourself and to have hope yourself and allow that energy to take root, to plant a seed and take root in the community in which you live, in your family, in your neighborhood, in all the people that you interact with, even online. If you're interacting with people online, remember to tell them that they are God's child, that they are as divine as you are. This is interesting. It feels so safe to be sitting home alone and talking about other people and complaining and judging other people and spreading hate because you're safe. You're at home in your safe little house or apartment, and you can say anything you want about people. But guess what? Not really. And guess what? You're with yourself. Who are you talking to? That computer's just a mirror for your mind. So whenever you're sharing things online, remember to share who you really are. Share the truth. Share the love. Please share the love. And that's all. When you're tempted to judge and share things about others that are critical and judgmental, remember who you're talking to. When you turn off that computer screen, There's a mirror there. You're looking at yourself. And that's who you're going to be with. That's the person you spend the most time with. So this is great. Michelle Obama is one of my favorite people. Yeah, she's an amazing person. So what type of courage she is talking about? She's talking about the courage to be the light. She's talking about the hope of a healed humanity, which is exactly what the mission of unity is, or the vision of unity, is a world powerfully transformed. We have to have the hope that that's possible. And then we have to have the courage to make it happen. It takes courage to be the light for one another. It takes courage to be the light which brings about the healing. Here's another one of my favorite people lately, Amanda Gorman. From her poem, The Hill We Climb, she says, when day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. A new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light. If we're only brave enough to see it. If we're only brave enough to be it. The courage to be the light of the world. This is what we're talking about when we step out of the shade, out of the shadows, aflame and unafraid. Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful. What a writer. What an incredible being, spreading her light, giving us images by which we can expand our hope and our courage. We can expand our idea of who we are. The new dawn blooms as we free it. That's an action that we take. We free the light. We are opening that dawn of awareness to others. It's important to be singular in this, guys. It's really important to be singular in your mind. This is my purpose. To have courage, to not only see the light, but to be the light. To know that that dawn is only going to bloom, bloom as we free it. As we free it, it blooms. It is available for others. So we're talking about the courage to be the light. The courage to step out of the shade and the shadows of mediocrity. That's what I'm talking about. To claim the unfailing presence and power of God in you. That's what I'm talking about. To stand up and embrace our reality as the collective awareness of God. That's what I'm talking about. God expressing in us, through us, and as us. That's what I'm talking about, rising up, having the courage to rise up together and transform this world. I believe that we can do it. We can heal the heart and the soul of the human family. Do you believe we can do it? Yes. Then you're in the right place. Thank you for joining with me in doing it. I know we can do it. We can heal the heart and the soul of the human family. And in order to accomplish this, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. And all of us starts with you and me, my friends. It starts with you and me rising up together in love, in the Spirit. It starts with you and me rising up in our consciousness, individually and collectively. Yes. We can do it, and we are doing it. So let's keep on doing it, okay? I love you. Be blessed. Be a blessing.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityoncapecod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.